Hey everyone, welcome to Wandering Jews with Mijal and Noam.
I'm Mijal.
And I'm Noam, and this podcast is our way of trying to understand the Jewish world. The summer has been so intense, both personally and for the world. So we've decided to take a little time over the summer to recharge. For the next few weeks, we're going to be releasing some of our team's favorite episodes. And we're kicking it off with a conversation that was actually kind of hard for me. It was about whether Zionists all over the world should really just be picking up and moving to Israel.
Yeah, it's interesting. No, I'm just listening to this again now after the events of the war with Iran in June. And like the stakes feel even different at this point for the Jewish people. It feels like we're in this new existential fight for our lives. And I feel this way both in terms of Israel and also here in America.
Does it make you regret that you haven't moved yet?
Don't ask me that right now.
Okay.
It's a whole other episode.
Okay, fine. Fair enough. And I totally get that. But enough of this. Let's let people actually listen to this conversation about moving to Israel, about Aliyah, and whether we should all be moving to Israel if you're Jewish.
Yeah, and after you listen, whether that's for the first time or as a repeat, just let us know what you think. We want to hear how this resonates.
I want to talk to you about the concept of living in Israel as opposed to living outside of Israel in the U.S., Canada, Australia, wherever it is, and just follow me here if you don't mind. I want to go through like a list of questions about the concept of living in Israel. Meaning, if people love Israel, let's say there are people that really love Israel and they deeply believe in the value of the Jewish state, a very legitimate question can and should be asked, which is, and it's a simple question: if you love it so much, why don't you just live there? And it's on my mind a lot. It's on my mind in the context of with my family who lives in Israel. It's on my mind because when I was a high school principal, I remember, not that I remember this, but I remember students a decade later saying to me, they remember when I and another colleague of mine named Jason Feld were in front of all the students, a few hundred students, and the question was asked, can you be a Zionist if you don't live in Israel? And I was on the side that said yes, and he was on the side that said no. And he really deeply believed that in order to actually fulfill and actualize and be a Zionist, you had to live in Israel. And I want to give credit to his thinking for a second. I want to lean into it for a second. And
Noam, you're talking here about what in maybe religious or popular language we might call making aliyah.
Yeah.
Aliyah is a Hebrew word which literally means like going up, being elevated. So it's like making aliyah, moving to Israel.
Yeah, exactly. I want to talk to you about...
Wait, sorry, Noam, one more question. Do you agree with your position from 10 years ago?
Well, let's explore. Let's wonder out loud together. Okay. And then maybe in our newest segment that we're going to get to called So New, meaning like, what's our takeaway? We'll get to that towards the end. We will have, we'll come up with some thoughts, but I really want to wonder out loud together with you. And I want to go through the process of doing this. So I want to start by picking a value, any value, loyalty. If you are someone's best friend and you have the principle or the value of loyalty, then you have to act in a certain way as their best friend in order to demonstrate that you actually care about the principle of loyalty. You cannot speak terribly about them. You cannot throw them under the bus. You cannot do terrible things to your friend if you believe in the principle of loyalty. And it would be strange to say that I exhibit loyalty when I, as a best friend, do not actually act that way towards my best friend. I'll give you a few other examples. Education. If education is so important to me, and I say it's a value of mine, that I believe in education. I believe in the need for a Jewish state. I believe for it. But education is not for me or my kids. It's for other people's kids, and I'm not going to invest in it. And the last example that I'll just give is Shabbat, the concept of Shabbat. You could say, I believe in Shabbat, I just don't live it. And there's a comedian who I won't quote, but he basically said, I have a lot of beliefs, I just don't live by any of them. So I want to get your immediate reaction to this. I want to just like an unfiltered, what's the Mijal reaction to this?
What I would say is that, well, first of all, yes, human beings are very, very inconsistent. So I believe it's like inhuman to expect that we're always going to live up to our spouse values. But then the second thing is, I think you can have a value and have a plurality of actions that relate to it. So you said loyalty, right? So for you, loyalty might be to defend somebody in a fight. For somebody else, loyalty will be to not join the guy who's beating them up. Like whatever that is, like there's actually probably different interpretations that we can have as to what does it mean to be a patriot, right? An American patriot. For some people, it's defending America. For some people, it's actually criticizing America from a place of love. So that's, I don't know if I'm disagreeing with your premise, but I'm just complicating the premise.
So, okay, but let's continue on this. So you have family in Israel. I have family in Israel. I don't know if you ever experienced this, but I could tell you my family, who I love dearly in Israel, my cousins, my uncles, my aunts, they, the way they, I say this with love, but they don't understand me. They really, and people like me, they don't get it. They're like, if you care about Israel, if you care about Zionism, yes, it would be difficult for your family to make the move. And yes, it's a culture change, of course, all of these things. But like, this is what Zionism is about. And like, I don't get you talking about and caring so much about this thing, and you live outside of Israel. They don't get it. Let me say it even stronger. They don't buy it.
Can I say it stronger?
Please.
For me, it's not people telling me. I struggle with this very strongly. Like, it's not an external critique. Mijal, how are you? How do you love Israel, defend it, and live in America? I struggle with this. It's something that I live with for a long time already. So you don't have to sell me on the question. I think the question for me, to me, the question feels really alive.
Yeah, I will say that for me personally, I do live with cognitive dissonance. I do live with this.
Did you ever think about moving to Israel? Did you ever try to plan that out?
Yeah, I have a great story. It's such a good story where before I got engaged to my wife, Terezi, I said to her, before we get engaged, she lives from Manhattan, but we have to agree that about two things, that we are going to be making Aliyah, and we are going to, you're going to learn how to drive. You're going to learn how to drive because you're from Manhattan, from the Upper East Side. So this is ridiculous. Like, you're tethered to Manhattan. You don't know how to drive. This is insane. So right before we got engaged, she got her driver's license and put the ring on that finger, and she goes,
it sounds very romantic. No, I'm just saying.
Yeah. This is like the Noam Casanova Weissman. So
yeah, perfect. Love it. Okay.
Come on, she always has the upper hand. She got her driver's license and then said, "Oh, and we're not moving to Israel." So, but I was like, okay, 1 for 2 is not bad. So we have spoken about it, and I definitely think in my high school days, I think if I would have been voted most likely to move to Israel from my peers, from my friends. That's why high schoolers talk, not peers, but my friends.
Why did you want to move to Israel?
For the reasons that I talk about my entire life, that I dedicate my life to telling the story of Israel, because the Jewish people's future is there, because it's where Jewish people get to create their own stories, where they get to construct and cultivate their culture to be part of the, it's where history is being made. It's where the Jewish story is being made. And I kind of feel on the outside of it. I've always felt on the outside of it, not living in Israel. So that's my reason why I just I feel part of it. I feel like it's my story, and I want to help make the story a better story. Just like it's my people's story. But you also said you live with the cognitive dissonance. Where's your cognitive dissonance?
So I will say, I grew up in a home that was really obsessed with moving to Israel. Like, it wasn't just me. It was like, my mom is one of 9 children. She was born in a place called Melilla, which is a Spanish province in northern Africa, next to Morocco. And she and her sister, who was 2 years older, made Aliyah by themselves when she was 12 years old. There were no cell phones back then, no easy communication, but she had this passionate, I'm going to move to Israel thing. And her family followed some years afterwards. She was in boarding school for some time in Israel. And I grew up not living in Israel, but with a family, with my parents kind of speaking about it as we have to do this. And some of it, by the way, was like we need to do it, guilt, and we can unpack that. And some of it was thousands of years just couldn't move to Israel. And we live in a moment right now where you can just, move to Israel. How dare you not do this, right?
That's a feeling that, yes.
Right?
When you said that, I'm like, yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. I was really convinced I was going to move to Israel. I did career counseling in college to make sure I would only do things that could translate to Israel. I broke up with guys because they wouldn't, they told me they didn't want to make Aliyah. And that was my red line. I'm saying this in New York right now. Yeah, I would say it's still in the cards for me. Like I hope I want to make it there one day. Not too far ahead. Like, before no, can I just say two things that complicate this for me before we like break it apart more?
Okay, because I want to start breaking this apart.
Okay, but let me just give two disclaimers. So number one is I'm always nervous about like the trope of dual loyalty. You know what I mean? Like I actually had some ugly exchanges on Twitter. Not really exchanges, I didn't respond, but like anti-Zionists on Twitter when I would post something being like, just move to Israel, why are you in America? If you're defending it. And I'm like, I'm a really proud American. I love this country. I don't think that you need to have dual loyalty if you love multiple places, but I've seen that. The other thing I want to say is that sometimes it's hard for me to talk to friends or students or even some family members about this who live in New York, because they will interpret it as like me wanting to leave them.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I don't want to leave you. I just like, my heart is there also. So in case any of them are listening, just...
well, I want to come back to that. Yeah. I'm actually writing that down.
Unpack away now that
that gets to a core of one of the challenges of people like you, and to an extent like me, people who are educators, people who are working with the broader American public and the American Jewish communities. And so like it gets into those sorts of questions. But I'm just also I want to name one more memory that I have, because you're talking about your story. You know, I grew up in a home where my parents had lived in Israel, and they moved from Israel to the US. And it was kind of this like very uncomfortable conversation with them about, we don't ask Ima and Abba, mom and dad, why they moved back to the US. It's just like, it is what it is. And, you know, they would try to speak in Hebrew in the house often to us. And on the Israeli national holidays, Yom HaZikaron, Remembrance Day, is that English? Remembrance Day? Sure. Memorial Day. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Both are English.
Yeah, it's English, just not good English. Not well English, not good English. Yom Ha'atzmaut, Independence Day, Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day. And I have these vivid memories of like my mom and dad in tears on these days, not just because of joy, no, because they felt this like gnawing reality that they felt something that was so real in them, which is this connection to the state and land of Israel. And then they lived outside of Israel in Baltimore. Just not because it was Baltimore, because for the record, it wasn't a shot at Baltimore.
Yeah.
But you know, like that's what that guilt, that cognitive dissonance, that pain, that's what it is. And what's interesting about it is it's not about whether or not they want a right-wing Israel or centrist Israel or left-wing Israel. And it's not about any political statements about Israel, but it's about just being there with the one place in the world where there's a Jewish majority in their ancestral, biblical, historical homeland. And so like that's my story. But I want to start getting into some content with you. I want to get into some juice with you. I'm going to come back to a few things. One is the guilt, the need to move there. I'm going to get to that right now. And also what you said before about not, like, you can't leave your congregants. So let me start with this. Jewish sources. What do Jewish sources say about living in Israel? What do we need to know? Is it an imperative to live in Israel if you are a Jewish person? Is that something that is necessary?
So I would say that I'm giving you like a gut reaction.
Yeah.
So Jewish legal sources, so when we talk about halakha, texts that assume that you can be obligated one way or another, I would say they are split on, well, everyone agrees that living in Israel is a good thing. There's always going to be an exception, but the overwhelming majority would say that living in Israel is a good thing. And we can also understand why they say that. But then in terms of whether one is obligated, so that means that I am transgressing something. I am doing like almost like a sin if I don't move there. Or at least I'm not doing a positive commandment, the sources are split there in terms of what they say about, you know, Jewish religious life.
Right. Okay. So the great debate is between Nachmanides and Maimonides. And Maimonides, Rambam says that he doesn't list living in Israel as one of the 613 mitzvot. And we have a tradition that we have 613 commandments that come to us from the Hebrew Bible. But he does say that one should prefer to live in Israel over another land, but that it's not explicitly an obligation. And Ramban goes so far as to say that Nachmanides, he goes so far as to say that I think this is accurate, that doing commandments outside of the land of Israel is essentially just practice for the real thing, meaning that there is this inherent intrinsic relationship between the Jewish people, the Jewish religion, and the Jewish land, the land of Israel. And so to do commandments, it's required essentially for you to be in the land of Israel to do everything properly. Those are the two of the major medieval sources. And I have a cousin, by the way, who's never left Israel. Who has never left Israel.
I have those also. They won't leave Israel. Yes,
this
they
guy
will
is
not
awesome.
leave the country.
He is a fascinating. He's so passionate.
Yeah.
He has like a big family, and like maybe they got him to go on a vacation once. I don't know if that's true. Like he really there's a statement.
Isn't there also? There's also like the Talmudic statement, I think, that one who lives outside of Israel is as if they don't have a God.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? It's a pretty harsh statement of like the rabbis in the Talmud or whatever. But by the way, like the Babylonian Talmud was not written in Israel.
Right.
It was written outside of Israel.
Okay.
And they are literally describing exilic existence as if you don't have a God.
But they also say that in one of the Talmuds, it's called Ketubot, they say, and I used to teach this to every 11th grader, there's a part of this when I was in the high school classroom, the Talmud says that moving to Israel isn't necessarily practical for everyone. And it goes so far as to say that if you move to Israel in mass, like meaning like bringing all the people together at once, that actually could be a violation because you'll be going against the winds of the world and going against the
Are you
nations.
talking about like the Satmar position? Of
Well,
like
the Satmar position is based on that piece of Talmud.
Right. Okay. Let's just say who Satmar is. Satmar is like a very specific Hasidic group, and they are broadly known for not being Zionists.
Yes.
They have like a more extremist elements often attached to them, like the Rakarta, who I would say are like hyper anti-Zionists, but we're not talking about them. But Satmar,
but Mijal, you're being both too kind and not kind enough. Satmar's anti-Zionist. They're anti-Zionist. They're not non-Zionist. They're anti-Zionist. Are you going to fight this one? You don't think they're anti-Zionist?
I think it really depends because right now people assume anti-Zionist means you want the destruction of the state of Israel.
Oh, okay.
So in those terms, I'm like, they're not anti-Zionist. They're like, they visit Israel. They go there. There's Satmar Hasidim living in Israel. They're fine with it. They just don't want to go to the army, and they don't believe Zionism is a religious good. But they're not like
they don't want to have a secular Jewish state, and they don't want.
They think all of us.
They don't think there should have been mass immigration, but now that there is, they're not gonna protest against its reality as opposed to the Neturei Karta, which are considered absolute extreme fringe organization. Okay, but Mijal, let's stay focused for a second. So whether or not you believe and I believe that it's an absolute commandment to live in Israel, it is absolutely the case that living in Israel is an expression of one's Zionism, and that the major focus and goal of Zionism, certainly in the early 20th century, was to get people to move to Israel, was to have the aliyahs, and do that. That's what the goal at some point in time was, right?
Yeah, I guess maybe no. Okay, I'm gonna say something awful. I think I don't care. Like, it's like, I don't know if I need to be like a good Zionist that has like these precepts from like 20th century. Like, I would say that as a Jew, like, I think it's simpler than that. It's not a political ideology. Right. As a Jew, Israel is a country where, first of all, I could religiously fulfill commandments to a greater extent than every other place, because there's commandments that you can only do in Israel. Yeah. As a Jew, walking in Israel means that I get to walk on land that literally, like, we have walked land that I can look down and I can say there's 3,000 years of history in precisely this stone that I am standing in right now. As a Jew, I can walk there and right now be amongst my people who have come from all four corners of the earth. So I'm agreeing with you, but for me, it's not even like a Zionist. Sorry that I'm saying it this like. Sometimes when you use Zionism, I am reacting not to you, but like to thinking of Zionism as like a political category. Yeah. And for me, it's a bit more essential that, being in Israel means that I do believe you feel God's presence way more in this sliver of land. Than Israel, you have to beg God for rain. So the needing to beg God for rain cultivates a different spiritual existence. Let me bring it down. What I mean by this is as follows. Right now, 2025, living in Israel is more precarious. It's more vulnerable. It's more intense. It's more, I would say, like, there's something there that's very alive. So I don't need to go back to precepts from 20th century Zionism to feel that as a Jew, there's something precious about living there.
Agreed.
Sorry
Agreed.
for that little...
No, I mean, I was going to say, like, yes, I agree with you.
Okay.
It is a different lived reality, lived experience, to use a modern term.
Sure, no. Good job. Sorry, I'm like, gold star, just kidding. I'm like...
But
you
so
got it in there.
that is that, and so again, it's we know that it's a very good thing to live out your existence in there. I want to push back now. I want us to collectively to push back to this. Okay, I get it. Medieval sources. It's the as a Jew, it's where I stand, and as a Jew, it's the future. As a Jew, it's the past. As a Jew, it's the present. I'm with you. All of those things, and they're romantic, and they're not romantic in a flowery, fake, Pollyanna-ish way. They're romantic in a very real way.
They're romantic in a get your driver's license before we get
exactly.
engaged.
Get your driver's license and move to Israel. Right? It's real. It's real. And I want to go to another argument. And I want to now I want to go to another argument against living in Israel, against moving to Israel as a Jew, as a Zionist. Okay, so there was...
Noam, you're saying you want to make the case as a Jew for why one doesn't have to move to Israel?
Yeah, well, meaning
one shouldn't idealize moving to Israel.
Exactly. Meaning it's something that is good. It's precious to be there. And I'm so happy that 45% of world Jewry lives in the land of Israel. If that's the number, something like that. And I think it's great. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. And I think that the Jews in the United States of America are here to stay. And in the early 1950s, when the leader of the AJC, a guy named Jacob Blaustein, was arguing with David Ben-Gurion, he basically said to him, "Hey, listen, we're here to support your state of Israel. We're here to raise funds for it. But David Ben-Gurion, don't you dare come to the United States of America and try to get Jewish people from the U.S. to move to Israel. Don't you dare do that."
Well, that was also in response to, it's good to name this, there's been like a Zionist ideology that is often described as shlilat agola. How do you say it in English? The negation of the diaspora. Yeah. Which is that many Zionist leaders and thinkers, including Ben-Gurion, basically exhibited a certain, how do you describe it? Like a certain sense of like the only real Jewish story that's happening and that matters is in Israel. Yeah. And outside of Israel, your job is to support us, help us, and move here.
Yeah, meaning the story's over here, you're over there, that's fine, but your job is to focus on this story, which
right, like your story does not have intrinsic value and continuity. Yeah. Hence, it is good as a support, but it's not like what we should be investing for the Jewish future.
Exactly.
So Blaustein was also like, it was responding to that impetus that Ben-Gurion represented.
And also the very fact that the state of Israel was new in world history. Just think of it this way: in 1900 years, 1800 years, whatever the number is, like Blaustein had to deal with a new reality of what it means to be Jewish in the United States of America with I don't want to say rival, but a counter, a different place for Jews to go and belong in. And the reality also was that the Jewish state, Israel, needed American Jews to go there to help build it up, help cultivate it, help make it great.
Right. And let's not forget that Blaustein, like many others, were also responding to the fear of being accused of dual loyalty. Exactly. For a long time, American Jews were anxious about Zionism. I have a friend who's like writing a paper about this. There were real concerns for a while amongst American Jewry and American Jewish leadership around supporting Israel for many reasons. And one of them was this fear of being branded disloyal Americans. And there was an exchange of letters, right, between Blaustein and Ben-Gurion, kind of like coming to terms.
Yeah, there's even an Unpacking Israeli History episode all about this.
Oh my gosh, can we put that in the show notes, please?
Blaustein versus Ben-Gurion. Oh, we got to put it in the show notes. Blaustein versus Ben-Gurion. It's awesome. It's so important.
Did you do this episode just so we could put that in the show notes?
Exactly. By the way, it's one of my favorite things when people are like, "Noam, what's the most important moment in Israeli history?" Like they want me to say the 6-Day War, 48, and I say like things like the Blaustein-Ben-Gurion correspondence.
Is that what you really say?
I say things like that just to probably be a little annoying.
Wow.
I'm sorry, everyone.
Wow. You really know how to have fun.
Yeah. Well, anyway, gotta have some content out there that's different, you know.
Yeah, but by the way, can I just say something? This sense of shlilat agola is not something that's only in the past. I mean, even today, you will find plenty of Israeli leaders and politicians and rabbis who will often speak in this way.
Yes.
Who will often say something. I'm going to give like a simplistic caricature of it. I don't agree with this, okay? Just FYI. But they will say something like, American Jewry is assimilating. They're all like half lost. Give it a couple of generations.
Yeah.
So let's get whatever support we can. But the real story, the real future is happening here.
Yeah.
They don't really matter so much.
Is it? And I always wonder if that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, is that ultimately, are they making a statement about really what ought to be or what is?
That wouldn't be a self-fulfilling. It's they're making the prophecy about others.
Right. It's almost like, but that they want it to be a prophecy that is.
Oh, you're saying, do they actually want that to happen?
Yeah, that's what I wonder. That's what,
I would hate
when
that.
you see the numbers, what is it? 70 and again, I'm not making a statement, but 72% of non-Orthodox Jews in the U.S., something like that, are intermarrying. What does that say about their grandchildren, this and that? So people say the future of world Jewry is going to be Orthodox Jews in the U.S.
The Satmar community.
The Satmars, take it from here.
And the Syrian community. What a good name for a podcast. Satmars and Syrians.
Satmars and Syrians take over the U.S. It'd be amazing. I would watch that.
I would stay in the Syrian side. In case you had questions.
Listen, the Satmars do amazing. They do amazing chesed, and they do great things for the Jewish people. Like chesed means like care and kindness. They do a lot of great things. But Syrians, I'm going Syrians in this one.
We'll consider your application when the time comes, Noam.
Okay, I appreciate that. I really do. And I eat lachma ajin every Friday and Saturday, so that should count for something. Okay.
You're working on that application, I can see.
Okay, I'm proud of it. Okay, but so here's the thing. So the argument against it also is this. We have friends, Zach Bodner and Amitai Freiman, who created this concept called Z3, Zionism 3.0, and I just want to read to you from it. Zionism 3.0 acknowledges the maturation of both Israeli and North American Jewish communities and advocates for a partnership model that transcends political and religious differences, fostering mutual enrichment and support. Their argument, meaning Bodner and Freiman, is that with two flourishing centers of Jewish life, it's imperative to establish a new paradigm that moves beyond outdated paternalistic relationships. Create a thriving center of Jewish life in the U.S., create a thriving center of Jewish life in Israel, and yes, Australia and UK and South Africa and Canada and all these things. Yes, but like 85% or so of world Jewry live in Israel and the U.S., create a thriving metropole of Judaism, of the Jewish people in the U.S., do the same thing in Israel, and create like this bilateral, incredible relationship. Like that's necessary also. Meaning what they're saying is this is the reality. Whereas there used to be a Zionism that was about, making Aliyah, and a Zionism that was about building the land. Now the third level of Zionism is about, hey, make a strong Jewish identity that's not just about religion in the U.S. and outside of Israel. Don't negate the diaspora, engage the diaspora, cultivate the diaspora, or do the exact same thing in Israel. That's the argument.
So I think what you're saying, or where you're going towards, and I didn't realize this before. So I think the reason that you're bringing this, and also Blaustein, thank you, is because there is an implication here that saying that Jews should move to Israel essentially and intrinsically negates value of Jewish life in the diaspora, right? It is a little bit creating a binary choice. Like either you idealize moving to Israel or you value Jewish life in the diaspora, right?
Yeah.
Can I have like a third choice?
Yeah, give me. I always want the third choice. Whatever the third choice is in general, I want that.
Okay, great. No, I mean, isn't it possible, or maybe I'm being just intellectually dishonest, isn't it possible to both idealize moving to Israel and also say there is immense value in Jewish life in the diaspora?
Sure, but that's okay. I feel like
that's my third choice.
Okay, but
well, it's intellectually dishonest.
No, I mean you wordsmithed that very well.
Okay, thank you. I'll take it. What's the problem with that?
My problem with it is the lack of obligation that your first sentence leads to.
Right, because I said idealize going to Israel as opposed to say you're obligated to go to Israel.
Yeah, just like I idealize a lot of things. I idealize 10 hours of sleep a night. I don't do that. Like, okay, great. That's awesome. I idealize having salads for dinner, and then my wife saw me have an entire baguette filled with steak. Like, I idealize a lot of things.
Don't do that. Stick to the lach machine. Yeah, but I think this thing that you just read from our friends at Z3, they're not talking against obligation. They're talking against idealization. Because they're not like using like halachic Jewish legal kind of like paradigms. So I'm okay doing this like softer third place. But okay, but where do you stand, Noam, with this too? You presented kind of like, okay, there's these reasons why
I want to get into one last level. The last level is the future of Zionism and living in Israel. And I want to go through two different stories. Story number one from two great rabbis who live in the United States of America. Like there's something odd to an extent to say that for you and I, with due respect to you and me, and certainly with due respect to you, less respect to me. Like it's a little bit strange that we are talking about the religious obligation of living in the land of Israel and the national obligation of living in the land of Israel, when many of the greatest rabbis and Jewish leaders had the option to live in the land of Israel and chose not to. And I want to read to you stories from two great men. Number one is Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, who was known famously as the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the story is, and I'm reading this, it says this: after the Yom Kippur War, meaning 1973, Ariel Sharon, who would later become the prime minister, asked the Rebbe, that's what he was known as, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, known as the Rebbe, why he didn't act like a commanding officer who marches ahead of his troops. If the Rebbe moved to Israel, he reasoned, many Jews would follow him. The Rebbe replied that in many instances, it is actually forbidden for the commanding officer to go first, as in the case of a captain of an endangered ship. The captain is the last to leave the ship. Only after everyone has been evacuated safe is the captain permitted to leave the ship. This was consistent with the advice the Rebbe often would give to others as well. Meaning, if you are a communal leader, and communal leader can mean lots of things, then your obligation, yes, there is an obligation to live in Israel, or it is a very good thing to live in Israel. But the way the world works is there's not just one value, there are always competing values, okay?
And no, it's not just for a leader.
Give me another example.
Plenty of reasons. You have elderly parents that you're taking care of and they can't move, right? You have to make a living for your family and you cannot make that work in Israel versus America. Okay. You are developing life-saving technology. I don't know. I'm trying to.
But again, I'm going to be mean to us.
You work in politics, and you're doing great things.
Is this the reason that Jewish people are not moving to the land of Israel? Is this?
You mean en masse? No, I don't think most Jews in America, just speaking broadly, think they should be living in Israel.
But they want to support Israel from afar.
Well, okay, we can get into statistics. A large majority feel connected to Israel. And the overwhelming number of connected and engaged Jews, let's say it like that, definitely want to support it. Yeah.
Let me give you one other story. I love this one. This is a story I read probably 25 years ago, and I was blown away by it. So you have the story from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, where Lubavitcher Rebbe basically says, listen, I cannot move to Israel because I am creating world movement right now. And if I leave and this ship doesn't have the captain, who knows what's going to happen to the people on the ship. That's his argument and why he ultimately never made it to Israel. He actually never visited Israel. There's another great rabbi by the name of Joseph Ber Soloveitchik. He wrote all this Zionist literature, and he even wrote it and to the extent that it became part of the Israeli state curriculum. Like Jewish kids in Israel were reading the stories of Rabbi Soloveitchik, who was teaching in Boston and New York, and it became part of their curriculum. And then one day, 1967, or it was a little bit before that, one of the students of an Israeli school wrote a letter to Rabbi Soloveitchik, the great Joseph Ber Soloveitchik, and said, hey, listen, like, with due respect, with all respect, love everything you say. Here's my problem. Hey, love the Zionist stuff. Why don't you live in Israel? What's the deal with that? And Rabbi Soloveitchik responded with this letter. I want to read this to you. He says, Her Honor, Madam Miriam Shiloh, Shalom uvracha, hello and blessings. I request forgiveness for not addressing her letter immediately and delaying until now. He explains, it was difficult for me and remains difficult to write. I'm immersed in mourning for the death of my beloved wife, the pupil of my eye and beloved of my soul, of blessed memory. My world has collapsed and is ruined. Even now I write with tears and with the blood of my torn and agitated heart. Much more romantic than the way I was talking about my...
I was thinking that.
Okay, I knew you were thinking that. Okay.
Yeah.
Then he continues, Rabbi Soloveitchik continues, I thank her, meaning the student, for her words, and I accept her rebuke willingly. Listen to that. I thank her for her words, and I accept her rebuke willingly. In truth, I have sinned against the Holy Land. I'm among those who have been slow. Of course, many causes which do not depend on me have delayed me, but I do not seek an excuse and I do not justify myself. I have sinned, and the prisoner's chain hangs from my neck. He continues, and he explains why he hasn't gone. And then the end of the letter says, Madam need not justify her words. I too am a simple Jew. In the language of the sages of Yavne, I would say I am a teacher, and many work with the community in the field of Torah and Jewish education as teachers. My work is in the large city of New York, in an institution with many students, and their work is in Washington Heights or in another community in a small institution. Whether one does much or little, so long as one directs his heart toward heaven, the work all of us do is dedicated to nurturing the values of Judaism, the ancestral tradition, and the Torah of our masters, authors of the tradition and its sages. With great respect, and he signs this, not Rabbi, Yosef Dov Halevi Soloveitchik. I find that letter so poignant. I find it so like...
Is it like your letter, Noam? Is it where you are?
It gets in my heart. It gets it.
So you're basically like, I feel like I should, but I'm not, and I'm here, and I'm serving.
Yeah, meaning like I think Bodner and Freiman, they make a great argument, and I think it's compelling, and I think there's a new vision for Zionism, and I think it's important. And I also, there's something that I'm not making an intellectual and like rational argument, that when I read the story of the Lubavitcher Rebbe and I read the story of Rabbi Joseph Ber Soloveitchik, the story of Soloveitchik just gets to me. It gets to me in a different sort of way. I don't view myself as a captain of a ship. And obviously the Lubavitcher Rebbe created a movement.
But you're a podcaster now, so.
I'm a podcaster, exactly. When people ask my kids what their dad does, they say he makes content. But
really? Yeah. That's very advanced. My kids say she's a fake doctor. Sorry, okay, different conversation. Or like she talks.
Exactly.
Okay, maybe let's just say, so two things now. So first of all, I just want to say, even as somebody who wants to one day move to Israel, and when I say want, I mean like I really, really, really hope it happens. But to me, it doesn't come with devaluing what we're creating here. Like I love American Jews, American Judaism. I love our communities. I love this country very, very much, and I really feel, they don't feel in tension with each other. And the second thing I'll say is, I've actually shifted my thinking in this significantly in the last 15 years or so. It's funny, like I'm saying it now as we're wrapping up the conversation, but I think that I started off feeling that there was a real obligation and feeling a lot of guilt, and I've shifted. I don't feel so much that there's like an obligation and that I feel guilty. I really am in a place where I feel like I will be the luckiest person in the world if I got to experience living in Israel and raising kids there. Like, I think I'm not doing a favor to somebody. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not like I'm going to go do a favor to the Jews living in Israel.
You're not a martyr.
You're not a martyr.
That's not what it is anymore. You're not a martyr.
I'm not. There's nobody dragging me. There's nobody. There's no. Right. I'm like, wow. If I get to have
what an honor.
Yes. There you go. Like, what a privilege. I think a lot about what it would be like. My husband and I, we talk a lot about when we have to go so that our kids will be shaped by Israel. Right. That's a conversation we have. I don't know. Again, I don't know if we'll make it or not in time for that. But for me to raise children with a little bit of that strength and resilience that so many Israelis have, I'm like, what a privilege that would be. Like, I feel like I would be the luckiest person if I got to wake up in Jerusalem and say, I live here where the streets sing, like, you know, the streets all have amazing names of biblical. It's just like, like that's romantic, Jerusalem. You know what I mean? Like walking those streets. That's.
Tel Aviv's a pretty good time too.
Yeah, Tel Aviv also. I've actually gotten to know Tel Aviv better the last few years, and I've kind of fallen for it as well. But what a privilege that would be, and I do think that there's something. That's a little bit where I am.
Yeah, and all that definitely resonates with me. I just I want to ask this question. I want to end with this. I got to ask this. So new. Like what's like the takeaway? Yeah. What's your takeaway? So new?
Good question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very original. Takeaway. Well, one takeaway is that there's a lot of different opinions as to the relationship between world Jewry and Israel. Another takeaway, can I quote myself as a takeaway? Like, is that allowed?
Yes.
Okay. I think we can idealize living in Israel without rejecting diaspora.
Okay.
I mean, that might be intellectually dishonest, but I want to put it as a takeaway.
Deal.
Is that okay to put it there?
Yep.
As a takeaway. And then I'm going to give a third. Sorry, I'm like failing this new segment.
Give me your top three. We're going to end with your top three. Your top three takeaways.
Okay, it's a third takeaway, but it's not. I'm adding, so I'm cheating right now.
Okay.
I'm adding a takeaway to the discussion that's not what we said. But I do think we need to ask ourselves, those of us who live in America and who live here happily, but who love that Israel exists and who love visiting and who love having that option if we ever need, I do think that should obligate us. I don't think, we talk a lot about, support for Israel. I do think there's something there. Like if we are grateful and we want the state of Israel to exist, and there are people who put their lives on the line for it, I believe it should obligate us. So that to me is a little bit of a part of the conversation as well as to what this means. What are your takeaways now?
I'm amazed by a number of my friends who have recently made Aliyah, and they just went for it. They just went for it. They just said, we're doing it.
Are you jealous?
I'm not jealous of them living in Israel. I am jealous of, maybe this resonates with other people also, I'm jealous of the ability to be willing to live out your values fully and the challenges that come along with that, and the privileges that come along with that. And I think it's excellent that they did it. And my other so new, now what is like, I believe that whether you want Israel to have a certain relationship with Palestinians, whether you want Israel to have a right-wing policy or left-wing policy or a centrist policy, whatever it is, I do think that that can be best shaped from within Israel, and it could be taken most seriously from within Israel. So if you want to be engaged and activated, it's very easy in our comfortable South Florida, LA, New York, New Jersey, bourgeois, lived like suburbia to say, hey, Israel should. I just think it's like move. I'm not saying that you can't make comments about Israel if you don't live there. I'm not making relax, everyone. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you want to shape it, like you got to go there as best as you got to go there and shape it as best as you can. Right. So that's what I'm leaving with. Mijal, I really, really appreciate having this conversation with you. All right, listen, Wandering Jews is a production of Unpacked, a brand of Open Door Media. Today's episode was hosted by me, Noam Weissman.
And me, Mijal Bitton.
The team for this episode includes Rob Pera, Rifki Stern, Ari Schlacht, and Ryan Rabinowitz. As always, we'd love to hear what this conversation sparked for you. If you have disagreements, if you have agreements, if you have thoughts that we did not consider, shoot us a note. Be in touch with us. Email us at wonderingjews@unpack.media. Again, wonderingjews@unpack.media. And of course, find us on social at Wondering Jews. Thanks so much, Mijal. See you next week.